All right, hey guys, it's me back again. Um, Even though my analytics and YouTube is suggesting that I stick with the Beyond the Map's Edge hunt because it's getting like twice the engagement as my other videos, I still have some research that I'm like halfway through, so I got to get it out there, or else it's wasted. Because if I let it sit for too long, my brain will forget the train of thoughts I was on. And I'm still doing this hunt, so I may not be putting out as much content, but I'm still harvesting clues and thoughts and theories for myself. So for those loyal followers who still are working on this hunt, we're going to go ahead and put it out there. No, really, like the engagement and all of YouTube's analytics are like, you got to do the Beyond the Map's Edge because it's like at least twice, sometimes more, the like almost all the KPI, almost all the metrics. But hey, you know what? You guys got me here, so we're not going to leave you hanging. All right. So I brought up in one of the last videos, probably like 2 weeks ago, about the whole idea of there's a whole different world of Dungeons and Dragons when you're playing solo and with the early modules and the new. Well, now it's DnD 1 or 5e1 or 5.1, whatever the newest one is. I'm used to 5e. That's what I was introduced to. That's what I played 90% of the time. I did play a little bit of Shadow Dark, though, which is kind of like an offshoot, which is very interesting. But I don't know if JCB played any Shadow Dark. But it's a fun system. I like it. Anyways, so I have some thoughts, and I was able to finally today polish them up as to where I can present them. And so here's what I'm thinking. The logic that got me here was D&D is obviously pretty special to JCB. When he talks about his childhood, yes, in the book, he talks about playing outside, the red clay, the digging for quartz, and a couple stories that he tells us. But in the interviews, one of the strongest things he mentions with childhood is Dungeons and Dragons, and especially how he wanted to play with a group, but most of the time he played by himself, with a single player, right? He was just a one-player D&D, which is it's kind of sad that, not that that's sad, like pity sad, but that he wanted the opportunity to play in a big setting. And eventually he did get that opportunity, and he relished it, and he talks about how he enjoys it. So that's one of the first interviews. So to me, early on I had pegged that as like a low priority, but now I've shifted that to like a high priority. And so the logic was, let's look into the early puzzles, themes, and common traps in the early modules from the early D&D, like the first and second edition, and see what carryovers, if any, we can play from like a 3D board game or a 2D tabletop into a puzzle treasure hunt that you're working off of a book, right? Where you can't really get that feedback. With D&D, you're getting the feedback from a dice roll or from a human dungeon master that has a most of the time has a plan, right? That's debatable with DMs. But you're getting that feedback, right? You give an input and you get a dynamic output. With a one-player module, the output is mostly static, but you can kind of force, which is an interesting mechanic that I kind of wanted to explore. You can force a feedback by introducing tables or matrices, right? And having some kind of element of chance in that. So without getting down that rabbit hole, because that's not the main focus, I've picked 5 kind of puzzles, and a couple of them have different offshoots. And so we're gonna in this video, we're gonna explore these puzzles and see how they can possibly apply to part one focus. All of these, yeah, you can probably do part 2, but I'm looking at it from part 1. So the first one, which is my favorite one, which is why I put it up high, is the whole mirrors thing. And there's a caveat for door, and I'm interested to hear in the comments if anybody watching this has either played in a campaign where you've had this type of puzzle, or you've ran a campaign where you have this type of puzzle. And I've done both, played in and ran this. A couple different variations where there's like a mirror, either a haunted mirror, cursed mirror, a special mirror, and that you have to get through the mirror in some way, right? And so a couple ways it's introduced is, you walk into this room, there's a couple candles dimly lit, or a lantern in the middle, or maybe the mirror is giving off a faint light, and you walk up to the mirror and you see dimly a reflection of yourself. And whatever you do, the mirror copies, and so the players will have some actions, right? They might throw a rock at it or whatever, and the point is, I'm getting to the end, is that the mirror produces a copy of yourself, and that if you try to push against, it's going to push back with equal force. So you pick up a rock and throw it at the mirror image of you gets a rock from magic and throws it back at you, right? And so if you try to run into the mirror's trying to run into you with equal force. If you try to fight or slash, it's going to slash back with equal force. And so there's a stalemate. And so the way I run it, or the first couple times I ran it, there's a couple ways to get through. One of them is without looking at the mirror. So a fun one is the copy of yourself only appears when you look at it. So if you turn around, you can go in the mirror backwards. Or you can cast the darkness spell, or turn off the lights, right? That's one thing you introduce. There's a light element in the room. And so if the players dim the lights, then there's nothing to reflect. And so you can just walk through the mirror normally, because there's nothing creating the magic image that counters back, right? And those are a few different ways to run the mirror gambit. And I like that, because mirror and reflection seems to be a theme that more and more people agree, right? We may not know how to use it, why it's applied. Some people pull it from different chapters. But I think twin, mirror, reflect is repeated in several chapters, and I think it plays some sort of significance, right? So if we're looking at a puzzle, right, how can we get through, right? So, here's where we combine D&D with escape rooms, right? We're trying to get through a door, and I don't know if I've done a video on doors yet. I know I've done some in Speakeasy. We've talked about doors. I don't want to blend it for this one, but that's a fun one to look at all the doors in part one. But how do we get through the mirror? How do we get through a reflection? Or if you have a chapter where both images are reflected, which one's the real one, which one's the not, right? And so those are, I think, a couple different options. Again, I should have led with this. I'm 7 minutes in. This is another info dump, informative video. It's not I'm giving you a solve, right? Some videos like come up with a solve, which none of them have worked so far. But some videos are more just condensing information that I've gathered over the past couple of weeks and presenting it. This is one of those, right? So a sub of the whole magic mirror reflection is, and it can be a pool of water. It can be a mirror. It can be anything that reflects the surface, right? Another one is a door. And it could be where you open the door and there's a mirror, or the trick is to get the door open. This one, I didn't really find a good way to apply it to the book, meaning that there's one of the common ones was, it's a talking door, and you have to, come up with a riddle. This is kind of leading into the second one, riddles. All right, sometimes the riddle can be presented by anything, a sphinx, a door, a mirror, another inanimate object that somehow talks because of magic. But the riddle, I think, is definitely 90 something percent definitely in here. The problem is we just don't know what the riddle is, right? With other treasure hunts, it'll say you'll have the riddle will be in a poem form or a song form, or the riddle's disguised. There's a riddle here that you have to figure out. And solving the riddle may not get you a state or boots on the ground. It might just get you directions. But where do we find the riddle? And I think a way we can find the riddle is in questions, right? Maybe some kind of, I know there's a lot of questions toward the end, right? Chapters 21, 22, 23. Chapter 23 famously ends with 5 questions. But if a riddle is a question asked to the player or the reader, then a hidden riddle could be you have to put the questions together. So that's another side project. One of my mini side projects for this book is assembling all the questions and seeing how we can draw a riddle out of there. Some of the questions he asks us, or I think puts forth, are where's joy? Where's your joy? Looking for joy? Where do you find inspiration? I don't know if I can make a riddle out of that quite yet. So we've got doors, mirrors, we've got riddles. Another one's an empty statue. This one, again, my trip down Pillow's bothering me. My trip down what common D&D puzzles in the early modules can apply to a treasure hunting book. It's not the easiest, not the smoothest find, but hey, we've already done the easy videos first. Now we're getting the stuff that makes you think, right? Because if I just stay reading the same 5 mini chapters over and over again, then I feel like I'm not progressing. So I have to gradually get outside the box within reason, right? I'm going to try to not go too crazy. If you ever hear me spouting what you think is absolute nonsense, just please drop a line in the chat, because if like 4 or 5 people agree, then I probably lost my mind. But I think this is a pretty solid line of questioning, line of reason to follow down. Just trying to figure out if there's a commonality between early puzzles, especially the early modules, and figuring out, hey, these are puzzles and riddles that JCB went through a lot as a child, so they're formative, right? He made core memories. The first time he solved the first time he encountered a mirror puzzle, and he figured out how to beat it, which, you know, probably was hard in those days, because nowadays if I face a puzzle that I'm stuck on for a little bit, I'll just Google the answer, right? That's the great thing with walkthroughs now in the days of the internet. In those days, you either had to find a friend of a friend's brother who beat it and ask him how he did it, or eventually, if you got your parents taking you to the mall, you could go to the game store and find a walkthrough book and flip through and try to remember what it said, because there's no way they're buying it for you, right? Those are the early days of how to get cheats. And only one kid in our neighborhood had a Game Shark, so, you know, that was fun. That's a callback if you remember that. All right, so getting sidetracked. A lot of things to do tonight. Mirrors, puzzles. Mirrors puzzle, door puzzle, which leads into the riddle. Empty statue, that's where we left off. Empty statue is another common one. It can be applied a lot of different ways. But you walk into a room or an area, and there's a statue. Most of the time, holding a hand out, and or sometimes it's a bowl, an offering bowl on a pedestal in the middle, and you have to figure out what goes in the bowl. And sometimes it's other parts of the dungeon, you have to find it. Sometimes it's something you have to come up with on your person. So how we could apply that? This one, the best thing I came up with is going back to the riddle, or there's a question in plain sight, in plain text in the book, and you have to fit something else in, right? There's a question asked, and you have to substitute something, put something in. And that would be like you walk into a room, and there's a statue holding an axe, and the door's locked. So you have to take out the axe and put something in, an orb, I don't know, something, right? So that could be something, but again, how do we get dynamic? How do we get, so then that would lead us to a riddle. So that's why I like the empty statue concept of that being like a beginning thing. In that, I mean, and maybe, I mean, there's a few statues in the book, I think. I mean, it might be worth looking to see if there's anyone in the book holding out their hand. And then you have to figure out what goes in the hand. If it's like a painting off the top of my head, I don't have it in front of me, like a Hercules painting where someone's reaching out something, what else on the page can fit in his hand? It's that way you're not flipping through the whole book to find what goes in his hand, but it's on the same page. So if there's any statues, which I can't think of any statues off the top of my head. I don't know if there's a statue in the Chauvin chapter. I don't know if there's any other images off the top of my head where someone's holding out something. But I would look either in that chapter or on that page to see if there's something that fits in the hand. That would fit the whole empty statue concept, right? Or maybe even a bowl. If there's a chapter with a bowl or an image of a bowl or some kind of receptacle, then you have to look what else on that page, what else in that chapter can go in the receptacle, and boom, that's your key, that's your riddle, that's a clue, right? The thing that goes in there. I know, we're stretching, right? We're stretching. All right, so the next one I also like is a chromatic puzzle, because chromatic, colors, is that the actual definition of chromatic? I don't know. Chroma, color, Latin. Anyways, chromatic puzzle normally has something to do with colors. We just did one of these recently in one of my campaigns where there were runes that were painted certain colors, and you had to match the element, and the colors were kind of a red herring. You just had to look at the runes really, so it'd be like vertical squiggly lines painted blue, but blue made you think of water, but water doesn't go vertically, so the answer was fire, because normally like a couple squiggly lines going up like this is like a fire symbol, right? One squiggly line with like two little ones on each side, it's kind of a fire symbol. So that was one. I don't know if, I mean, there is a lot of color. I don't know if the color is a red herring. I'm working off the assumption that it's a chromatic puzzle. And but these, I mean, the chromatic puzzle is just a broad general topic. I mean, there's several different types. One that I've never played or seen played, but I read about, which seemed pretty cool, is like there's you know, some primary color, some cups with primary colors in them, and there's a cup with a little bit of green liquid. And so you walk in, and like on the wall is written, drink the green cup to pass. But there's the dungeon master makes sure there's not enough liquid for everybody, so only like one person can drink it and pass through a door. Everybody else is stuck. And the answer is kind of simple, I guess. You have to mix blue and yellow colors to make the green, so then you can drink it. I don't know, this seemed kind of easy, but some people had some stories about how their party had wacky adventures with it. I mean, most of the times you walk into a tomb and it says, drink this liquid. Like, that's a trap. You're not going to do it. Which is, this is something I brought up in one of my early videos, and I had it specifically linked to the Past and the Future box, but now will say it as a reminder to the book as a whole, that a common, very common theme, very common trope in almost all Dungeons and Dragons puzzles and dungeons is traps. And it's hard, like, how do we do that in a book? Like, it's not like if you get the wrong solve, a spike comes out of the book, it hits your hand, or like it shuts on you, or a rock falls from the ceiling, right? So to me, I've always felt that the traps in the book are red herrings and false paths, where there might be confirmers. And this seems to be played out, because how many people find confirmers all over the place and they still don't have a box? So in my mind, that's how he designed his dungeon, and that's the traps, that something will look like it makes sense, or confirmer might lead you down, like 2 or 3 things might work, and it leads you down a path, and that's the trap, right? So chromatic puzzle, again, how do we do it? Whether it's matching, right? So I've done a few videos where I find some colors, I find them in the book, and I've come up with like 4 to 5 to 6 of them, and they're repeated. But what do we do with them, right? For me, I was working off of, you find maybe the chapter name that the color's in, or look at the text around the color and use that, you know, assemble them throughout the book and make a message of some sort. Well, a chromatic puzzle would be, you find the colors and you have to find something that's that color, right? So this would be a trip, which, I mean, it's a 7-figure hunt, right? So it's not like he's asking too much, right? And it's easy to explain. I like that. If the solve came out that like a portion of it was, oh, you had to go through the book and notice that I said the color blue so many times. So blue was one of the colors. And then you had to find something blue in the book, like a sapphire or another image. Maybe the detail would be something small in the background that's blue. And then maybe it made a different message, right? So if you went through, I mean, I can't remember off the top of my head my first color list. It wasn't the Olympic colors, although that could be something you do. If you're a big fan of the Olympic colors, go through and see if you can find things that are the colors of the Olympic rings, and see if assembling them makes some kind of message, right? I think mine was gold, red, pink, white, blue. I think those were it. And so then I would look for, gold's a tough one. Some things are gold, but there's not too many things pink or red. The only thing pink, there's like 2 things that mention pink. One of the gems or gemstones, and then I think in the chapter with the confirmation bias, where he's at church, so the church was decorated in like pinks and purples for Easter. But that's the chromatic puzzle, right? And then the last one I had is kind of an offshoot of that, which is runes, which I mean, this one can go down this is why it's last, because I like it the least. Because I know if I say it, people are going to go and look at all the squiggles, and I hate when people look at the squiggles. But like, all the AI chapters have tons of things that can be considered runes. I just don't like saying that on tape, on video. But I mean, that could be, I mean, if I'm trying to be objective and I'm trying to look at early D&D puzzles, a lot of them were rune based, and they either encouraged the DM to draw runes and show them to the player, and you had to match it, or they came with runes that had set definitions, and that could change based on a dice roll to make it, so you wouldn't know what they were. But yeah, so those are the main ones, man. Mirrors, which is doors, riddles, empty statue, chromatic, and runes. And those are, a lot of this was, AI and chatbot helped me peruse through and find the common ones. But other ones were just me looking at the classic modules, both from, Tomb of Horrors and to the newer classics. The Mine of Philander, did I say that right? Mine of Philander, Curse Mine, a bunch of other ones where, hey, you're going to meet... there's one more, which I didn't put on the list, but I don't know. I should probably say it. But like tiles, rotating tiles, sliding tiles, whether it be it's like Indiana Jones, like you open the hallway and all the hallway's tiled and you have to step on the right ones. I just don't like it because it's such a callback in my mind to the crossword, and I'm having trouble getting away from it. And I struggle with how that could be applied to a book. I just feel like that's going to lead people down a whole path of looking at pages and drawing lines from O's on pages, or connecting periods, or exclamation points, or all the E's on a page. I just feel like you could go down so many different rabbit holes with the puzzle and the slide tiles. So I left it out, but I didn't leave it out because I said it. But that's that's the video, man. Yeah, short and sweet, about 20 minutes. Just to fill you in on my plan for the next couple weeks. And my plan changes day by day. So the best plan to my intention is probably going to do something like, I normally put out about 4 to 5 videos a week. Right now I'm looking at a split of like 4 to 1 or 3 to 2. Beyond the Map's Edge to TTI. I don't want to shut it off completely. I think that's dangerous and detrimental to my own brain. But with the growth that the channel's had, and it's thanks to Posey's Hunt, I have to, give, people are joining for that. So it'd be kind of, I feel, false advertising for me to go back and just tease them with the Posey stuff. Although, you could say that not a lot of people have the book, so maybe wait and keep it an even split until more people get the book. But I've seen chatter just die down a lot for there's treasure inside, which I've heard people say that's a good thing because less competition now, and there's always going to be the diehards. Like obviously, like if I lived in Arkansas, if I lived near Tahoe, if I lived in the Rockies, like I'm definitely locked in on JCB's hunt because there's so many clear things pointing to that it's that location that you're gonna good chance. But I'm in kind of a middle state. Although I still like Pennsylvania, so maybe I won't say middle state. But anyways, I'm beginning to ramble. I can always tell when it's late and I'm beginning to ramble. So we're gonna shut this down. My plan. Yeah. So focus more on Justin Posey's hunt for right now, but I'm not gonna let this die completely. There's a few other topics that I have videos up, partially researched. Dungeons & Dragons was one. We're going to go back to Joy Serenade. I don't think we're going to make another run through the small boxes. If we are, it'll only be the AT because I'm going boots on the ground for that again. Because I think it's pretty good chance that it could be in Pennsylvania. But yeah, I won't touch the small boxes again because I just haven't discovered anything new. I'd just be repeating old stuff or making up stuff. And I don't want to do that. So the plan is to go back and restart the book again. Do another deep dive, a deep dive this time. No, I called it a medium dive the first time, so this will be a deep dive into the chapters. Now, with what we've known, we put everything together. I say no, but whatever. So that's the plan, right? So look forward to another journey 1 through 23, probably starting in a month or something like that. All right. Take care, guys. Thanks for watching, as always. Bye.